Hey, what's good guys? This is Nightwing2303 from WearTesters.com. Today we have the performance review on the Nike LeBron 13. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. So the traction use here on the LeBron 13, initially I was definitely unimpressed, at least from a visual standpoint. However, they ended up working out really well on court. So the pods here actually use a bar looking kind of pattern. It reminds me a little bit of something that you actually use for something outdoors. They're implemented in a way that's similar to herringbone, where it's just kind of like lines and everything, but they're also in a multi-directional fashion. So no matter where you're going, what direction you're trying to move in, these things pretty much got you covered. Now, I was unable to find a dusty court. I know how that sounds. It's definitely rare. I walked into my local 24 at the very last night of testing these, and I was just like, okay, now it's time to test these guys on a really dirty court to see how this traction really stands up. And I walked in and that shit was super clean, dude. Like, I was like, what happened here? Who got hired and who got fired? What's going on? So as far as this review is concerned, it's basically on really nice indoor courts. There was some dust, but it was nothing like what I'm used to playing on. But if you've played with these on dirty surfaces, leave a comment in the comment section below to let everybody know what your thoughts or opinions were on how they performed. As you guys know, with the LeBron 12, it was really hard for me to feel any of the hex zoom pods except for the one in the heel, and that's because this one was the largest volume, meaning that it was the thickest. Now the LeBron 12 actually changed that by implementing two smaller units with two large units. So you have one large unit in the heel, 13 millimeters thick, then you have a 13 millimeter thick one at the Met location. This is very similar to the Kobe 5 setup where you had that one Met bag right here. These are the two main impact strike zones, and I have to say they felt awesome. You can feel it right when you try them on, but you can really feel it when you start getting around on court, especially with your stride. Heel to toe just feels really great. Much like the LeBron 12, I still didn't really feel these two smaller units, but I don't put a lot of pressure on that side of the foot. Like I said, this area and this area are the main strike zones, so those are the ones that you really want to focus on, and I like that that's what they did here. And because they are potted, they are protruding out just a slight bit, and so you really feel that responsiveness or that bounce. This feels like real Zoom Air to me. Now, something that was greatly improved between the 12 and the 13 is heel to toe transition. The LeBron 12 setup was fairly clunky, where that forefoot was really nice and flexible. The heel area had all of this posit that basically extends all the way down to the heel, so when you do have a strike upon that heel movement, it's just really hard, really thick, and you don't actually catch the zoom unit until you start to roll into your stride. And so first impact is like a little bit of a dense ride, almost clunky or brick-like. And as you can see with a LeBron 13, they've gotten rid of all of that posit. All you have is midsole and outsole with that lightweight phylon, so when you are crashing down, it's just a smooth roll and transition into the forefoot area. And you can even see where it kind of lips up like this, so that when you are hitting, you're just going to be rolling straight into your stride. It's a really great feature, and it feels 10 times nicer than LeBron 12s did. So really great improvement from the transition standpoint. I actually really dig that, and I think that larger Swift players like LeBron are definitely going to enjoy that as well. Now, as far as materials are concerned, the entire upper is comprised of like a one-piece bootie, very similar to the LeBron 12. So the base layer is an internal boot system or a sock, followed by the dynamic flywire, which you can actually see that's attached into the footbed. Now the secondary layer is this fuse layer, which is something that I was really complaining about in my initial first impressions, because it really doesn't feel good when you try them on. It just kind of feels really stiff and awkward. But this is one of those shoes where you just kind of got to wear them, and then you're going to actually see the benefits from it. So what they ended up doing here is they put these fuse panels in zoned locations, and these areas have zero stretch. So obviously you'd want that in the collar areas, which you have, but then they also did that along the midfoot and then around the toe box as well, leaving the rest of it hollow, so you have plenty of articulation right where you need it, and then no stretch zones right where you need it as well. And that's pretty much the biggest difference between these two models here, is that this was primarily mesh with some mega fuse or plastic overlays, whereas this shoe is primarily fuse with giant gaping sections of mesh. And then the final layer is the posit pieces. They are placed sporadically, so you have that lateral ankle stability section right here at the lateral side of the collar. The only thing that this side was good for was, getting scuffed up, because otherwise it was pretty much useless. This is like the most random piece of posit I think I've ever seen on the shoe. And then that midfoot piece, while I believe that this is still something that doesn't need to be there because the fuse is there, it is there to protect the mesh so you don't have a ton of wear and tear right on that area. As far as fit is concerned, I do feel that they fit true to size, but trying them on is definitely the best way to find out if your your pair needs to go up a size or down a size or true to size and all that kind of stuff, because everybody's foot is a different shape. So for an example, the midfoot area that has that zero stretch that I talked about earlier, the one with the posit panel right on top, this area is going to be killer for people with high arches, and killer as in not a good thing. This area is just very snug, it doesn't move, it doesn't stretch, it really helps contain the foot. It does its job really well, but if you have a high arch, this thing is going to just kind of rest or lay right on top of your foot in a way that you might think is uncomfortable. So again, trying them on is definitely the best route to go. Now the one thing that I do have to nitpick, just because this is for my foot shape only, or my legs, is that the height of the collar here I was not a fan of. And it's not just because I really prefer low top, it's because these little pointed sections right here, they would dig into my legs even when I was wearing some taller socks, and that I just felt was a little bit uncomfortable. It wasn't to the point to where it was rubbing anything raw or leaving any marks. It was just, you know, pressing into my leg, and it was just not a comfortable fit in that regard. So if there was one thing that I was going to complain about, that would be it. All of the aforementioned features that we just went over, from their tooling all the way up to their fit, all of which have a positive effect on their overall support. The tooling used is fairly wide, so it goes out and cradles the foot just enough to where it feels and promotes some more stability. And then, like I said earlier, the materials that they used here all around the shoe, especially the no stretch zones, all promote a great solid fit, great lockdown, which in turn will give you more natural support. So you're able to maneuver on court without feeling like you're wearing a pair of Timberlands, even though these are a little bit kind of boot-like. So overall, I definitely wasn't a fan, especially when I first tried them on. These things just don't feel good when you try them on. I don't know why, they just feel like stiff pieces of junk. However, once you break them in, these things feel freaking awesome. The traction and cushion were two of my favorite features, and while I do prefer the materials that were used on the 12s overall, just in terms of my personal comfort level, the materials that they used here on the LeBron 13 are something that was actually really good once they were broken in, provided plenty of support with plenty of mobility. Like I said, you got those no flex zones, then you have actual flex zones. So larger guys that enjoy that type of fit, they want something that's really nice and secure, really locked in, but offers enough mobility for you to just kind of like do your thing on the court. This is the shoe that's going to be able to get that done for you. Now, as far as their price or value is concerned, that's something that I hear a lot of people constantly being like, are they worth such and such? And to be perfectly honest, I've said this many times before, but I guess I'll just say it again. The budget thing, that's totally up to you. You got to set a budget and then you got to stick to it. The whole question on does the shoe's performance change depending on their value is really a non-valid point, just because if these things retailed for $40 but nothing on the shoe changed, they're still a great performer and they just happen to cost $40. Meanwhile, they retail at $200, none of the performance features changed, and they are still the great performer that they were at $40. So again, the price thing, totally up to you. If they reach your budget and they meet your needs, then that's a shoe that you'd be like, oh yeah, you know, I want to check those out and maybe play in them. If they're well over your budget, even though they do meet your needs, wait for them to go on sale and then they'll be worth your value. So bottom line, there's great performance models out there that retail anywhere between dirt cheap and
hell no. For real?